I'm experimenting with a new strategy or platform called Streamlabs, and this is going to allow me to be more efficient in streaming these live streams, and uploading to all of our channels. So it's going to be YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram eventually, and definitely TikTok. Sorry, this is very impromptu, so just bear with me. Just wanted to jump on here. Those of you who know me, you know me. Those of you who don't, my name is Dr. Robert Shapiro. I'm the primary owner and director of Fusion Health in Stockton, California. We used to be known as Shapiro Holistic Health and Chiropractic. We've converted over to an integrative health center. We've introduced regenerative medicine into the clinic, and so that's one of our biggest focuses. Of course, we still have chiropractic care, and that encompasses a lot of different things. I mean, obviously, manual and instrument assisted adjusting. We do functional soft tissue work. We incorporated extracorporeal shockwave therapy. We have cold laser, traction, muscle stem, various physiotherapy modalities, do some therapeutic exercise, etc. Right? Old news. Current news. Again, going back into regenerative medicine, like this is one of the reasons that I'm going to be doing these talks. Is I want to get the information and the education out there in regards to that. Now, along those lines, something I really want to delve into with you is something called functional genomics. And this is a relatively new thing. It has more to do with nutrition or functional nutrition than anything else. And if any of those buzzwords don't seem familiar with you, don't worry. You don't need to have a bunch of knowledge about it. As a matter of fact, it'll give me an opportunity to hopefully educate you, bring you up to speed about what that entails, what those things entail, and how they can be a benefit to you or people that you know. Probably some things that I'll mention today that I think would be relevant to you would be that in regards to functional genomics, what I'm talking about there is doing DNA testing, which honestly you're probably already familiar with it. DNA testing, most of it is being done through places like 23andMe and Ancestry DNA. I think MyHeritage is another common one. They've been around for a while. But there's some new companies that have popped up on the scene you probably have never heard of. One of the first ones that I came across is called My Happy Genes. The reason why they caught my interest is, one, they're private. And that means that the data that they get in regards to your genetics, it's held by them and held by you. The problem with the legacy DNA providers like Ancestry DNA and 23andMe, and by the way, 23andMe I don't believe is available anymore. I believe they filed bankruptcy. I don't think that they're doing any new testing. But if you have legacy information, meaning you've already done your test over there, you can still get access to it, which is good, because then you can download your raw DNA data in a text file, and then you can take it to some places like Genetic Genie or NutraHacker and a few other ones out there that I'll be talking about down the road. Genetic Genie and NutraHacker are the two free ones that I'm aware of, and they will give you some information about your functional genomics. And what that means is that functional genomics means that you have genes in your DNA that have an effect on your physiology, or basically, how you function. It affects your weight, it affects your mood, it affects your personality, it affects your immune system, it affects how you interact with your environment, how you absorb and process toxins and toxicants. It affects how you sleep, and it affects a lot of other things. Again, I plan on going into these things. I didn't really go into this with the plan to go super in depth about these things, but I suffice to say I do think that it's a very relevant topic. and I do think that there needs to be more coverage. Sorry, I'm noticing my lighting's not the greatest here. I'll be working on that too. So that's, again, this is kind of why we do these things, right? Trial and error. My background is it's a little messy. You can see my one of my Michael Kelly guitars in its case over here. I don't know if I'll ever be playing guitar on this. I may. I'd like to. I'll probably separate it into a different channel though. Then again, who knows? And then some paintings over the corner over my shoulder here. Still trying to figure out how I want this room to be laid out. It's never been one of my strong points, is like putting stuff together, because I always see so many possibilities. That's the problem I've been told with the kind of personality that I have, is that you see so many things at the same time, and so it can be very hard to pinpoint and focus on like one thing. So let's go back. That's another thing that I tend to do, is I tend to kind of jump topics, and that's one thing I'm really working on. Matter of fact, one of the reasons I'm setting this up is so that I'll have like a what do you call it, an outline, right? A layout for my talk, so that I can stay on point for you. So going back into functional genomics, again, all of that has an enormous relevance on your health, every one of our healths, right? So let me I'll tell you a little bit about my story regarding that. So for years, I didn't realize it at the time, but I struggled with something called histamine intolerance. And that means that my body does not break down histamine. Now, if you're familiar with histamine, more than likely, you probably have a history of allergies. That's how most people are familiar with it. Or skin allergies like eczema, dermatitis, hives, etc. However, it's tied into other conditions. It's tied into psoriasis. It's tied into autoimmune diseases. In fact, there's some very specific autoimmune diseases that really are tied into histamine intolerance. But histamine intolerance usually tends to be an implication behind allergies, especially like respiratory allergies, gut problems like bloating, gassiness, indigestion, acid reflux. It's definitely implicated behind acid reflux. Matter of fact, one of the strongest and best-selling lines of medication to help people with acid reflux, i.e. histamine intolerance, are your proton pump inhibitor drugs like Pepcid AC, Nexium, and a few other ones. And what they really are they're histamine receptor 2 blockers. Interestingly, some very intelligent people during the COVID pandemic, they discovered that these H2 blockers, they drastically sped up the recovery and reduced the symptomatology of the COVID infection. And that has to do with the fact that COVID triggers a massive release of histamine into your system when it infects you. As a matter of fact, the long COVID aspect, I believe the histamine intolerance is a big factor behind why people have long COVID and the symptomatology. I don't have any direct evidence in front of me. It's more clinical. It's more just clinical experience. But I'm sure I can find it if I go out and I search PubMed or Medline or whatever, all the different platforms for looking up that information. I imagine I can find it. So yeah, histamine intolerance is implicated behind these things. In my regards, for years I suffered with allergies, and then of course because of how it was affecting my immune system, it was leading me to having recurring upper respiratory infections, especially sinus infections, bronchitis, and matter of fact, during COVID, I caught COVID in January of 2020. And however, they weren't diagnosing it back then, but the symptoms matched it, and they were pretty severe. And then I ended up getting a severe sinus infection. My ears were infected. I think I had like pink eye conjunctivitis, and I had really bad bronchitis. And I woke up one morning, after I thought I would sleep it off over the weekend, and I worked actually through the week, not knowing that I had COVID, and I ended up the following weekend thinking, okay, I'm going to sleep and rest and I'll recover. Well, it got worse. Woke up early Sunday, like Monday morning, and had to cancel patients, had to go into urgent care, and ended up getting on some medications. I actually recovered pretty decently. However, about 2 weeks later, I started to come down with the infection again. I believe it was about 2 weeks later, and then ended up having to take some pretty powerful antibiotics that I was fortunate enough to have brought back from Mexico with me, and that got rid of it in like 2 days. However, it did leave me with some long COVID symptoms, and unbeknownst to me, it was because of the way my genes, these certain genes that I had, these variants, they're called SNPs, which stands for single nucleotide polymorphisms. And so, kind of a short for that would be a polymorphism. And it's just a fancy way of saying that when you look at the DNA strand, each rung of the ladder as that helix is spinning around, if you can kind of picture that in your mind, and sorry, I'm going to learn how to pull all this stuff up so that you guys can see it. But, as you're looking at that helix, you're seeing the rungs of the ladder that connect the two strands of the DNA together. And those are made out of nucleic acids, right? And, like they have the letters like A, T, C, and G. I don't remember all the names, like tyrosine, guanine, I don't remember all their names, adenosine, but most people have particular pairs, and certain people have a variant of those pairs, and what that does, that's called a SNP, and that can have a significant effect on how that gene expresses itself. The most common SNPs are in the MTHFR gene. Sometimes some people call it the mother effer gene. It stands for methylfolate transferase, methylfolate MTHFR, methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase, and it's the enzyme that it produces. Sorry, geez, completely went out of my head. Anyway, it's easier to say MTHFR on that one, right? And that gene affects methylation, which is super important for producing and breaking down histamine. And there's other genes that I'll get into. Again, I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet since it's my first time. It's not it's not pretty, but anyway, that's that'll kind of hopefully kind of pick your interest in regards to that. And I'll go deeper down the rabbit hole when it comes to that particular topic. Even like these individual genes, right? Like, this is something that I'm looking to do, is to try to get feedback from people in regards to what they want to hear, what can help them, right? What really interests them. So by all means, like, if you see this and you click on it, you bother to watch it, like, give us feedback so that we can cover these topics. And as I get more organized with this and I get more fluent with it, I will do a better job of doing surveys and gathering your feedback and providing you with the information that will help you the most. So that being said, I think I'll wrap this up, and feel free to let me know what you think. I know, like I said, I got to fix this lighting. Right now I have an open window right here with the light coming in. I have a small light over here, but it doesn't produce nearly enough light. I may do overhead lighting. I may do lighting in front here. I'm working on all that setup. So, well, thanks for stopping by, and hopefully that information intrigues you. I'll talk about some other things, and we'll see if we can't whet your appetite and feed some good information into your brain. All right.